Welcome to FarmTastic. Imagine being all alone in the deep woods, snow starting to fall, and your only goal is to finish building a stunning A-frame wooden cabin before Christmas Eve. In this video, we'll follow a determined man as he takes on the challenge of crafting his dream cabin, step by step, in the heart of the wilderness. Will he beat the clock and make it in time? This journey is not just about building, it's a story of resilience and creativity. Let's dive in. Mark was 32 years old and had spent the last decade working as an IT technician in Chicago. Life was comfortable, predictable, and somewhat empty. Every day, Mark took the same train to work, spent 8 hours in a gray office fixing software issues, and returned to a small, rented apartment. He often found himself wondering, is this really all there is to life? Growing up, Mark had always dreamed of doing something meaningful, but he wasn't sure what. His job paid the bills, but it didn't feed his soul. That changed one day when he received a call from his mother. She told him that his grandfather, who owned a small corner shop in a struggling neighborhood, had passed away and left the shop to Mark. The shop, Grandpa Joe's Groceries, was located in a part of the city that had seen better days. Once a thriving community, the area was now marked by boarded-up windows, graffiti-covered walls, and people struggling to make ends meet. Mark hadn't visited the shop in years, but he remembered it as a warm, welcoming place where his grandfather had greeted every customer by name. Mark decided to visit the shop to see what was there. The building was barely covered, the shelves were mostly empty. Customers wandered and looked tired and defeated. The thought of running the shop felt overwhelming, but something inside him stirred. He remembered how much his grandfather loved this place and the community it served. Maybe this is my chance to make a difference, Mark thought. Mark quit his IT job and decided to take on the challenge of restoring the shop. He used his savings to repair the building, repaint the walls, and restock the shelves with fresh produce, canned goods, and household essentials. But Mark didn't just want to run a grocery store. He wanted to turn it into a place where the community could come together. He started small. Every Saturday, he hosted community mornings where customers could enjoy free coffee and pastries while chatting with neighbors. He set up a small bookshelf where people could take or leave books for free. Over time, the shop became more than a store, it became a gathering place. Mark also partnered with local farmers to bring in affordable fresh fruits and vegetables. He set up a system where customers could pay a small amount upfront to get discounted groceries throughout the month. For families who couldn't afford even that, Mark quietly offered free food, no questions asked. The road wasn't easy. The first few weeks, the shop barely broke even. Every day, Mark questioned whether he was making the right decision. One evening, after a long day of work, he found the shop's windows shattered by a brick. It was a reminder of the struggles the neighborhood faced, but instead of giving up, Mark saw it as a sign that the community needed him now more than ever. He reached out to local leaders and organized a neighborhood cleanup day. Dozens of people showed up, including some who had never spoken to one another before. Together, they painted over graffiti, picked up trash, and planted flowers around the shop. Slowly but surely, the neighborhood began to transform. As the shop thrived, so did the community. Mark introduced cooking classes on weekends, teaching families how to prepare healthy meals on a budget. He started a mentorship program for local teenagers, helping them learn business skills by working in the shop. Some of those teens, who had been on the brink of dropping out of school, began to see new possibilities for their future. Word about Grandpa Joe's Groceries spread beyond the neighborhood. Local newspapers wrote articles about how the shop was bringing hope to the area, and customers from other parts of the city started visiting to see what made the place so special. Mark's little corner shop had become a symbol of resilience and renewal. One afternoon, Mark found a letter that was slipped into the shop's window. It read, "Stop believing in ourselves. You've given us hope again." Mark realized that what he had built was more than a business, it was a lifeline. The shop wasn't just about selling groceries. It was about rebuilding trust, connection, and community in a place where those things had been lost. 5 years later, Grandpa Joe's Groceries had expanded to include a small cafe and a community garden in the back. The neighborhood around the shop was unrecognizable from what it had been before. Crime rates had dropped, new businesses had opened, and neighbors greeted each other with smiles instead of wary glances. Mark Mark often thought about his grandfather, who had started the shop with little more than a dream and a desire to help people. By taking a leap of faith and embracing the legacy left to him, Mark had not only transformed a struggling neighborhood, but also found a deeper sense of purpose in his own life. Mark's story is a testament to the power of one small act of kindness to create ripples of change. It reminds us that sometimes the greatest impact we can make is in our own backyard dam, that a leap of faith can lead to something extraordinary. Mia was 26 years old, living in a tiny apartment in New York City. She had come to the city 5 years earlier with a big dream of becoming an artist. Back then, she had imagined her paintings hanging in galleries, her name celebrated in the art world. But reality had been far less glamorous. Most of her days were spent working as a barista at a coffee shop, barely scraping by to pay rent. Her art supplies gathered dust in the corner of her room, untouched for months. Mia often wondered if she had made a mistake by coming to New York. She felt invisible in a city so big, where millions chased their dreams, but only a handful seemed to succeed. On most nights, she sat by her tiny window, watching the city lights, feeling both inspired and defeated. Little did she know, her life was about to change in the most unexpected way. One rainy evening, Mia was working the closing shift at the cafe. It was nearly 10 p.m., and the streets outside were empty, save for the occasional car splashing through puddles. Just as she was about to lock the door, a man walked in, dripping wet and shivering. He looked to be in his early 50s with a scruffy beard and worn-out clothes. "Can I just get a cup of hot coffee?" he asked, his voice soft but weary. Mia nodded and quickly prepared the coffee. As she handed it to him, she noticed his hands were trembling. Without thinking, she grabbed a muffin from the display case and placed it on the counter. "It's on the house," she said, offering him the small spoon. The man hesitated, his eyes searching for something would show him kindness. "Thank you," he whispered, taking the muffin with both hands. The man sat at a corner table, sipping his coffee slowly, savoring every bite of the muffin. Mia went about her closing tasks, but couldn't help glancing at him every now and then. There was something about him that piqued her curiosity. On a whim, she grabbed a sketch pad she kept behind the counter and began drawing it. She hadn't sketched in months, but her hands moved almost instinctively, capturing the sadness in his eyes, the way his shoulders slumped under the weight of unseen burdens. When the man noticed what she was doing, he chuckled softly. "Is that me?" he asked. Mia blushed but nodded. She tore the page from the sketch pad and handed it to him. "Here," she said, "take it." The man studied the drawing for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, with a quiet thank you, he folded the paper carefully and slipped it into his pocket before leaving the cafe. The days went by, and Mia almost forgot about the encounter. But 2 weeks later, she received a letter at the cafe. It was addressed to her, with no return address. Inside was a handwritten note. "Masters, I don't know if you remember me, the man who came to talk to you. I wanted to let you know how much that meant to me. I was at my lowest, ready to give up on everything. But your kindness reminded me that there's still good in this world. The sketch you gave me, it was the first time in years that someone saw me, truly saw me. Thank you." James asterisk. Mia felt a lump in her throat as she read the letter. She hadn't realized how much her small gesture had impacted him. She tucked the letter into her bag, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in months. That letter ignited something in Mia. She began sketching again, every free moment she had. She sketched the customers at the cafe, the people on the subway, the musicians playing on street corners. Her sketch pad became her constant companion, and she rediscovered the joy of capturing the world through Mia said, her voice filled with surprise. I wouldn't miss it, James replied, smiling warmly. Your art, it's incredible. Mia learned that James had turned his life around after that rainy night. He had reconnected with his estranged family and found work at a local nonprofit helping the homeless. He credited that night at the cafe and Mia's small act of kindness as the moment that saved him. I should be the one thanking you, James said. You didn't just give me coffee and a sketch, you gave me hope. Over the years, Mia's art grew. Her work became known as she often told the story of James and how one small act of kindness had created a ripple effect that changed both their lives. Mia kept James's letter framed on her studio wall, a constant reminder that even the smallest gestures can have the biggest impact. This story is a testament to the power of connection and the profound effect that kindness can have. It reminds us that sometimes, by simply seeing someone, truly seeing them, we can change their world and our own. Liam was 38 years old, a software developer living in San Francisco. He was successful by all outward appearances, owning a sleek apartment, driving a luxury car, and enjoying the occasional weekend getaway. Yet, beneath the surface, he felt a deep emptiness. His life had become a monotonous routine of long hours of work and shallow conversations at networking events. He had always loved music, especially the piano, but he hadn't touched the keys in over a decade. His childhood dream of becoming a pianist had faded long ago, buried under the weight of practicality. It wasn't until one sunny afternoon in May that everything changed. As he strolled past the quiet corner of the park, he noticed an old, weather-beaten piano sitting under a sprawling oak tree. A small sign taped to the piano read plainly. Intrigued, Liam sat down on the creaky bench and placed his fingers on the keys. They felt unfamiliar, foreign after so many years. He hesitated, but then, almost instinctively, he began to play a piece he had learned as a teenager, Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. The notes came haltingly at first, but soon his hands found their rhythm. As the melody filled the air, passersby began to stop and listen. An elderly couple sat on a nearby bench, swaying gently to the music. A little girl with pigtails clapped her hands in delight. For the first time in years, Liam felt something stir within him, a spark of joy he thought he'd lost forever. When Liam finished playing, he was surprised to hear applause. Among the small crowd was a young woman with bright red hair and a sketch pad in her hands. She walked up to him, smiling. That was beautiful, she said. I'm Harper. Do you play often? Liam laughed awkwardly. Not really. It's been years, actually. Well, you should, Harper said. There's one encouragement. Music like that shouldn't stay silent. They struck up a conversation. Liam learned that Harper was an artist who frequented the park to sketch. She told him that the piano had been donated by a local musician as part of a community art project. It's here to remind people to slow down and create, she said, kind of like a gift to the city. The two exchanged contact information before parting ways, but Liam couldn't stop thinking about their conversation or the piano. Over the next few weeks, Liam began visiting the park regularly to play the piano. Each time, he grew more confident, rediscovering old pieces he had long forgotten, and even improvising new ones. The piano became his refuge, a place where he could escape the pressures of work and reconnect with himself. One day, Harper showed up again, this time with her sketch pad. She sat nearby, drawing as Liam played. Afterward, she showed him her sketches, beautiful, flowing lines that seemed to capture the emotion in his music. They began meeting at the park more often, forming an unlikely friendship that quickly blossomed into something deeper. As Liam immersed himself in music, he began to figure out what his life was. The endless depth of his creativity no longer felt worthy. Encouraged by Harper, he started playing at local open mic nights and small community events. The first time he performed in front of an audience, his hands trembled just feel like I'm wasting my life, he admitted. I'm stuck in this cycle that doesn't make me happy. Harper looked at him thoughtfully. Then break the cycle, she said. You've already found what makes you happy music. Maybe it's time to focus on that. Liam stayed with her for a week later. He made a bold decision to focus on his journey. He used his savings to buy a small studio and began teaching piano lessons. It was a risky move, but for the first time in years, he felt like he was living with purpose. Months later, Harper surprised Liam with an idea. Let's host a concert, she said, right here in the park. You can play, and I'll display my art. It'll be our way of giving back to the community. The idea excited Liam, and together, they organized the event. On the evening of the concert, dozens of people gathered in the park under strings of fairy lights. Liam played with all his heart, the melodies flowing effortlessly as Harper's artwork hung from nearby trees, swaying gently in the breeze. As he finished his final piece, a song he had written himself, Liam looked out at the crowd and saw faces lit with joy and wonder. He realized that this was what he had been searching for all along: connection, creativity, and a sense of belonging. The piano in the park remained a symbol of their journey, a reminder that sometimes the simplest things of forgotten melody, a chance encounter can change your life. Liam's story is proof that it's never too late to rediscover your passion and build a life that feels true to who you are. Sometimes, all it takes is a leap of faith and a stranger with a sketch pad to set you on the path to fulfillment. Sophia was 30 years old and had just returned to her small hometown in Georgia after spending nearly a decade living in Atlanta. Life in the big city had been exciting at first, but over time, it became overwhelming. Her corporate marketing job drained her, leaving her feeling empty and disconnected. When her grandmother passed away, leaving behind an old house and a dilapidated bakery she once ran, Sophia decided to take a break from the chaos and return home. The bakery, Sweet Haven, had been the heart of the town for decades, known for its warm pastries and, most importantly, its legendary lemon lavender pie. But ever since her grandmother had fallen ill, the bakery had shut down, and the recipe for the pie had seemingly been lost with her. Sophia first stepped into the bakery. It felt like stepping into a dream. The smell of flour, sugar still lingered in the air, and memories of helping her grandmother knead dough flooded back. The shelves were covered in dust, and the once bustling kitchen was eerily quiet. She found an old ledger on the counter filled with handwritten orders and messages from customers who had loved her grandmother's creations. But what intrigued her the most was a locked drawer in the desk at the back of the bakery. Sophia remembered her grandmother always guarding that drawer, but as a child, she had never been curious enough to ask why. Now, it seemed like a puzzle waiting to be solved.